Honey, I know. Well, good day, everybody. It is September 14th, 2025. It is Sunday, and I haven't seen this cat for quite a long time, over a year. It's a cross-eyed cat, by the way. He's not gonna, he doesn't want anybody to see it. And he's like following me. I don't even have any food for him. Haven't for a long time. Maybe these cats have a long memory. And, oh gosh. I don't know. Well, I hope he gives up and goes home. He's got kind of a wide-ranging area here. A lot of cats kick him out, and he's run off by a lot of other cats taking territory. And I've noticed that he kind of has this area right now. I've seen other places. It's a strange way to start a video, isn't this? But anyway. Oh, honey, honey, honey. I call it honey. I don't know. It's been here since we moved into this apartment quite a while ago, a couple of years ago. Survived the winters and things like that. It's still there. Anyway, news. A lot of things. You know, it still bothers me like it bothers a lot of people. And about Charlie Kirk, of course. And he's a lot, I don't know, I like him a lot more than I thought I did even before. I remember seeing him at some times talking with Candace Owens at some places. I might have mentioned that before. Look at this. They didn't. Come on. They didn't mow this grass right over here. Why did they mow that part and they didn't mow this one anyway? Oh, hopefully he's staying back there. Don't want him to waste his time with me. Or her time. That's a female. She's fixed, by the way, in case you want a cat. Oh, there she comes again. I want to sit down somewhere. She'll come and sit on my lap, of course. There's no benches here. Nowhere. Anyway, let me stand here for a while and maybe she'll get tired and leave. But anyway, Charlie Kirk. I have a lot more. You know, I guess I'd have to start off. It's very difficult to even talk about this because there's like mixed feelings and there's a lot of misinformation about Charlie Kirk going out there. And I wasn't, you know, like a person that watched him or followed him or nothing. Maybe more so Candace Owens. But anyway, Charlie Kirk. It turns out, you know, he was divisive, I guess you could say. And there was maybe some things that I didn't like about him in the future, and I just forgot about it. Like, he's a huge supporter of Israel. He was. That's past tense. Double past tense, since he's not even with us anymore, and that's a different was. But he had obviously changed his mind about Israel, and maybe there was some other issues. It just doesn't occur to me right now. And not all of us get everything right, especially not the first time either. And, you know, like about COVID, you know, and the vaccines and all that, he might have been right maybe even before I was. I don't know. I fell for a lot of that stuff at the very beginning. I was scared. Most of us were scared. You know, the way they used all this stuff, and they had these CCTV things, you know, and showing people falling down on their faces, which they didn't fall down on their faces. They caught themselves right before they hit the ground, but they were meant to make us think that these people were falling on their faces on the streets in China and all that. I don't know what China's involvement, the government, for example. I don't know if it's private parties. I don't know who was doing all of that stuff with these fake videos. And, you know, that was scaring the whole world. And I remember even Candace Owens talking about that, you know, and what a messed up bunch of crap. So anyway, I was scared about that, and I think a lot of you were as well at the very beginning. I hope none of you are really now, even though the sickness was much worse, I guess, at the very beginning when the original strains were coming out, I believe. I don't know if it's that much worse, but of course they overdid this. This was a huge, huge campaign, and just because of the fact that this happened and that there are people that are doing this to us, that should scare you more than anything. That these people can be so manipulative, they can throw anything at you. And it's obvious to me. I don't know. It should be obvious to a lot of the rest of you too, how we are all susceptible to being faked out, and yeah. And then of course they come out with the vaccines, and I can't talk so much about that because this is YouTube, and I hate to say this, but YouTube is part of the problem too. You know, they're in with these, I guess what we call the globalists. We were all thinking Donald Trump is not part of the globalists, but you know, maybe, guess again, maybe they won him over. Maybe this is just a recent thing. But you know, the Epstein files and all that sort of stuff. You know, Donald Trump is still kind of. He was talking about the Epstein affair and all that, and then of course he made like a 180-degree turn for, you know, in some aspects of that. And now he's even still talking about, maybe to distract us from the Epstein thing and whatever else is going on, he's talking about George Soros. Remember, he was even talking about Hillary Clinton back then, and other people in his crowd were saying, lock her up, lock her up. And now Hillary Clinton loves Donald Trump. And, you know, right after this stuff about the Epstein thing came out, that he's, you know, Trump has that it's a hoax by the Democrats. You'd think, oh, Hillary Clinton would say, how dare you, and go after him for that. But no, instead, Hillary Clinton loves Donald Trump now, and she's in favor of a lot of this stuff. You know, it's like, you know, I mean, it's not very difficult to start connecting some dots and adding 2 + 2 and see that there's something going on here. That's very obvious. And then you see somebody like a regular guy, even though he's a big Trump supporter, like Charlie Kirk, coming out. And it has come out that huge sums of money. You know, Charlie Kirk, I was saying that he wasn't a super rich, but he was very rich. I didn't know how much money this guy had. All these people, even Marjorie Taylor Greene has millions. She comes out as a regular mom, and I'm not saying that there's anything bad about her. I haven't seen anything bad about her yet. As a matter of fact, I think that I can only see good about Marjorie Taylor Greene. But I remember something maybe that she's talking about UFOs or something. I don't exactly know, and I don't know if it's sure for true, and I haven't heard anything about that lately. I don't know. But anyway, I don't want to talk about her necessarily, but you know, it's other people too. But Charlie Kirk, apparently his organization, let's see, did I write down the name of that? And I didn't even know about this because I didn't, like I said, I wasn't a big, supporter or follower of him. Did I write down that name somewhere about here? I think, yeah, Turning Point USA. But apparently, when he was even a younger guy, Sheldon Adelson, apparently, or elements that ran through Israel, got like $40 million to this guy. Apparently, at the age of 18, they realized this guy's a very influential speaking type of guy, like me, with all my followers on YouTube, as you all see. You know, now obviously YouTube suppresses things, you know, so I don't even know how many followers I really would have, or views or whatever, if YouTube was not suppressing them. And they certainly do that. Even Tulsi Gabbard has mentioned that. There's people here, and especially, you know, if you're in Belarus doing this, and all the Belarus people, you know, that speak English and make English speaking videos, they all know that too, and everybody talks about that. You know, it's a very well-known fact. I even met a guy that he was actually from Chile, and he worked for a bank though, and he also used to work for Google in Poland, and he was telling me some things, and I really shouldn't say them here because I might be deleted if I do say those things about Google. But it was amazing. He was like an IT specialist type of guy, very good. But anyway, I guess I won't say anything. Honey, why don't you go somewhere, you cross-eyed cat? Anyway, Charlie Kirk got, I guess, 40 million from that. And you know, if you have a great ability to speak like me, no, just kidding, but I guess people notice that. And he was a very smart guy, and I guess even when he was like 18 years old, apparently people saw this in this Charlie Kirk then. So I don't know if that was when they started giving money to him. He was 31 when he was killed. And wow, what I tell you what, the more you dive into this, you find how much deeper this rabbit hole goes. This is really incredible. It is really incredible. And if you want to ask me even if it seems to be, for the most part, circumstantial evidence. I don't know. I'll go out on a limb here, and I'll say that, to me, in my opinion, this is my opinion, by the way, it is almost undeniable that Israel definitely had something to do with killing Charlie Kirk, and it's just way, 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 way too much information there. Charlie Kirk mentioned it even 2 times, in the past, I guess, weeks, that he was afraid that Israel was going to knock him off. But he got a lot of money from them, and it's very difficult. You got to think of how difficult it is. All of these freshman congressmen, even like Marjorie Taylor Greene and who was it, Matt Gaetz, and a lot of these people. Some of these people did make this trip to Israel, but when they're freshman congressmen, and even when they're not even freshman congressmen anymore, you get a paid vacation to Israel. American congressmen. I know it makes you wonder, huh? I tell you what, I've seen politicians, and I've even seen it. I've seen it, when you get invited to some place and there's some party, and then the head of state is somewhere there, and they're accepting gifts and things like that from, in America it's not allowed, supposedly, to accept gifts from, like foreign dignitaries, I suppose. I guess that's against the law. And I guess if you ever do that, you're not allowed to ever become the president of the United States, if there's any record of you accepting gifts like that. And I guess, obviously Rudy Giuliani had gotten some gifts, and one guest, I guess, is to be called Sir Rudy Giuliani, and I suppose that is supposed to be, preclude him from being able to run or to become president of the United States. Just like John McCain, who was born in Panama, and of course they twist and turn the laws around and things like that to make it so they are eligible or whatever, when they're in truth not. You're supposed to be born on American soil, and to construe the fact that Panama was American soil, it sounds like a big construation to me, Or I think it's in Rudy Giuliani's case, I guess you cannot have like these titles conferred upon you by foreign governments. But yet there he was, running for president of the United States. So that's just even John McCain or Giuliani, that shows anybody watching this that I'm not a Republican or a Democrat, even though, of course, by far the most corrupt ones are the Democrats these days. They're just so incredibly corrupt. I think even Tulsi Gabbard will say that. She said her aim was to what is it? It's not renovate. What is the word for that? To maybe recover. What is the word? To bring the Democratic Party to their senses. And of course, they went after her for that, because apparently that's how that works. They love the corruption. It's very much like Benjamin Netanyahu or Vladimir Zelensky. They revel. That's how they exist, by corruption. That is their whole theme. That's why they're in power. That's how they stay in power, is by being corrupt. So that's incredible. And the strange thing is, here we're talking about Charlie Kirk, and Charlie Kirk on video, on television, I don't know, well, not television, but on video, he was admitting how corrupt Benjamin Netanyahu is. And he called him various names like bullies, bully. He didn't come out and say the word corrupt, but everything that he talked about was that he was redoing the Constitution right before your eyes, of Israel, and changing the laws and doing everything the way he wanted to do against the Constitution of Israel. That's not corruption, then what is? But he was saying that, and you can find videos, I guess, on that. I don't know. You definitely can find it online. And I think that was with Patrick Bet-David. That was one of the times, at least, that he was talking about that. But in spite of all of this money that was flowing to him from Israel, to be a acolyte of Israel, to be a propaganda for Israel, it seems that Charlie Kirk, he might have had a bigger conscience, and he was a much better person than to continually go along with this. I don't even know how he got as far as he did for as long as he did, supporting that. I had seen this probably, maybe even when Charlie Kirk was in kindergarten. I knew that Israel was like this, and you would think that maybe he should have realized this very much earlier how corrupt and how bad Israel is. But he didn't, I guess. And but he was coming out and talking about Benjamin Netanyahu, and talking about, for example, he didn't use the word, but I saw this. It was on Jimmy Dore, but Jimmy Dore wasn't there. I don't remember I don't know the lady's name, but anyway, they were talking about this and about the Hannibal Directive, and Charlie Kirk and all this, and everybody's recognizing that Israel was killing Israelis, and of course they tallied that up as Hamas was killing them, and Charlie Kirk at the very beginning, apparently after this October 7th thing went on with Israel, so supposedly their 9/11, and they were attributing 1,200 people killed by Hamas, and I think the real number is less than 300, and apparently most of them were killed by Israel, was not killed by Hamas. But anyway, Charlie Kirk, he was saying at the very beginning, I guess, it takes way too much time to be looking through all kinds of things online, and then you start looking for things about Charlie Kirk, and they're saying that they're implying in the title and that the information that it's about such and such, and you read the article and there's nothing about that. It very kind of elusive. It's not what they're saying in the title, and you find so many like that. And then there's things like, I don't know, the Washington Post and all that, where they want you to pay a bunch of money to read any of their kind of stories. And then when you consider the fact that it's fake news anyway, why in the hell do you want to pay money to read fake news? So and I don't even know what they would say in there anyway. But it certainly isn't worth it. And that's why, of course, most people don't go to those people to get any news anyway. But anyway, it's but Charlie Kirk was talking about, in effect, the Hannibal Directive, and I think the number, like I've heard, might have been less than 300 that actually died, and most of them were killed by Israelis, and the Israelis that were there even admitted that they were killed by the Israelis. And I think there's a big fine. People are prohibited to speak to reporters. That's what they did. They said you're not allowed to speak to the press about any of these things, or whenever you are held captive by Hamas, you're not allowed to speak, because a lot of people are saying, no, they were not tortured, there was nobody raped, and all of these things. So I guess Benjamin Netanyahu and his government decided to just say, oh, you're not allowed to talk about it, because it doesn't fit their narrative, how evil Hamas is or something, And but anyway, Charlie Kirk was talking about the fact that he had paid trips, that he went to Israel, and he said that what he saw while he was in Israel is that he cannot believe that this event that they talk about, their 9/11, their October 7th, this incursion of Hamas to go and kill all these young people that were celebrating music or something right on the border of Gaza, makes you wonder, why would they do it right there anyway, especially when there are security concerns. And there's so much I remember even back then when when it wasn't banned to where these people can go to the press, and apparently people that worked in the government were calling their children and saying, don't go to that concert, and basically they were saying that there's something is going to happen. In other words, they knew about this beforehand, and I'm not sure, was it during Charlie Kirk's thing, or a lot of other people were talking about that it was Charlie Kirk saying that there was an order to stand down, in other words, to let it happen. And there are people in the IDF that have come out and said that they were ordered to stand down. In other words, to let that happen. And that came out that way. I don't know if I'm going to be kicked off of YouTube for saying all this kind of stuff, but apparently that's what happened. And there are testimonies of people saying that in court, saying that they were told to stand down. In other words, to let Hamas do whatever they were doing there. And of course, Hamas, their objective was not to kill anybody. It was to take prisoners, Israeli prisoners, and to exchange those prisoners for Palestinian prisoners. And for every, I don't know, Hamas prisoner that they took, there is at least 100 Palestinians. You know, they have thousands and thousands of them, small children and women, you know, just ladies, old ladies and things like that. They have them as prisoners that had nothing to do with anything against Israel. Really, they're just minding their own business. But, you know, a lot of time Israel, they find out who to take as prisoners, you know, who they can get the most effect from. There's all kinds of nasty and dirty things that you hear about this over years when you're following this stuff about Israel. It's just incredible. It is just mind-boggling. Norman Finkelstein and lots of other people would be talking about this, which is surprising to me that Charlie Kirk didn't know about all this stuff much, much earlier. But anyhow, he said he made these trips to Israel, saw for himself that anywhere near that border, of course, they have fences all around, you know, barbed wire and electric fences and double fences. And he said every 10 feet you go, there is a 19-year-old with an AR-15 rifle, and there's machine guns all over the place. And then can you think that they're going to have a whole bunch of young people there celebrating some sort of a music concert, and they're not going to have any IDF people there at all whatsoever? You know, I mean, come on, think about how ridiculous that could possibly be. So he said, Charlie Kirk said, that it's virtually impossible for that to have ever happened, this October 7th. And, you know, that's why he was strongly saying there's probably an order to stand down. And, of course, he did not want to come right out and say there was an order. And, of course, there was an order to stand down. That's very obvious by now. And I don't know when Charlie Kirk was talking. It's like, I don't know, maybe he can't go around and look at all the news. Very well-informed guy. But, of course, as we all know now, that's exactly what happened. They got the order to stand down and to let this happen. And then, of course, and it was happening for a long time. Apparently, maybe it was an hour before the IDF even showed up. And they can react much, much, much faster than that. But, of course, they didn't. And it was going on. And I don't know, maybe they were hoping that there would be a lot of killing, you know. It's just incredible stuff. And when they did show up, they showed up with flamethrower Apache helicopters. And they had this footage of all of these cars, you know, in a parking lot. What was it, 30, 40 cars, all of them burned out completely. Do you think Hamas had some sort of a way to do that? Did they have these flamethrowers, and were they walking through and burning out all these cars? I have no idea. You know, I doubt it very, very much when it turns out, and I guess there maybe is some footage of these Apache helicopters shooting flames, you know, on these cars. Very strange. Oh, but somehow Hamas did it. What did Hamas steal the helicopters and start? I mean, come on, you know? It's just all of this stuff is just way too ridiculous. So anyway, Charlie Kirk was getting wise to all of that, and there's a lot of information. I'm way off beat here. Let's see. So, you know, anyway, Jackson Hinkle, Scott Ritter, Colonel McGregor, and especially Max Blumenthal. Oh, Max Blumenthal is Jewish. He has the Gray Zone. He's the founder of the Gray Zone, which a lot of people, you know, you can't really find any errors that Max Blumenthal has ever said that is wrong. You know, you can't dispute him. He's one of the best investigative reporters around. He's not even an old guy, so I don't know, what is he? He might be 45 or something like that, so he's still got a lot of time to continue as whatever he's doing. He's got these sources that are absolutely incredible where he gets a lot of this information. He's the first one that was talking about, in effect, the Hannibal Directive. And I started saying that this was some sort of an operation, I guess, a few days after it happened. Maybe it was 1 or 2 days. You know, you can suspect it right away that Israel is up to some kind of a fishy crap, because that's what they always do. And especially Benjamin Netanyahu. And there's just so many times. There was once a bus attacked in Bulgaria. That was maybe 15 years ago. And it was immediately, Benjamin Netanyahu knew immediately it was like, what is it, Hezbollah or Hamas? I don't really know. I can't remember. They both start with H. But anyway, he immediately knew within 30 seconds or something after the event. And how could he even, you know, put a tweet or a message out so friggin' fast? And along with that, when Charlie Kirk was shot, the first person I believe on planet Earth, the very first person to put out a message was Benjamin Netanyahu. I think they said it was posted 7 minutes, so maybe after 5 minutes of Charlie Kirk getting killed, Benjamin Netanyahu started to prepare a post, saying, oh, he's so great for Israel, oh, and all that. And then he was Benjamin Netanyahu was getting, as you all noticed, I said this on this last one, and this stuff is really sickening when you see this guy. When you know that what this guy is all about, and Charlie Kirk knew what he was all about. He came about realizing all about this, about Benjamin Netanyahu, as most people eventually do. Yeah, Charlie Kirk, he knew of this about Benjamin Netanyahu. But anyway, Benjamin Netanyahu, he comes out so fast with these things. Oh, we love him. Oh, I was talking about CNN. I don't know about this woman. She kind of has a weird mouth or something. She was a blonde lady. And, oh, I know that you are so, basically fondling all over Netanyahu and Israel right there on the spot. Oh, I know that this is untrue, but some people are saying that Israel, has something to do with this. And then, of course, Benjamin Netanyahu, oh, this is absolutely ridiculous, yes. And we changed the trajectory, we changed the orbit of the moon and all this kind of stuff. Benjamin Netanyahu, what is there? There's an expression, don't believe something until it is officially denied. So when Benjamin Netanyahu officially denies that Israel had something to do with that, it kind of tells you that Israel has something to do with that. Especially somebody like Benjamin Netanyahu, and he's trying to make it sound like, oh, how ridiculous, who would believe anything like that? But who would believe any of this crap, that Israel has been proven to do? That is exactly, as a matter of fact, that sounds like a textbook case of something that Israel does. I mean, how many times in the past? I've mentioned that already in the other video, so I'm not going to go over some of these other dastardly things that has been proven that Israel has done. And I should also mention, by the way, that I now have my bookshelf, and I even went through the books and I found some of these books that I keep mentioning all the time. And like one of them was, some of these. One of them was a guy, Victor. I can't even. It sounds kind of like a Russian type of name, but I believe he came from Canada, and he was chosen to be a Mossad agent, and he was talking about how they do that and how terrible, how dastardly the Mossad is, and he's talking about his training, and like even like the sex parties of the people in the government, and the top people, and and how very, very corrupt these people are. And anyway, they had I don't know if they ever killed him. They were going to try to kill him. Israel likes to kill a lot of people. They're really, really big into killing, as you all know. Not as much as, of course, the Ukrainians. But that's the nice model democracies, the only democracy in the Middle East, Israel, as they say, and you're not supposed to notice that the other countries also have votes as well, and they're far more democratic than Israel is. But anyway, and let me clarify. There's a lot of good people in Israel, so I'm not saying all of Israel. I'm talking about especially this present government and the Zionist people. They have some really bad stuff going on in there. Really nasty people, But anyway, it's that was one book. It's called By Way of Deception, and there's another one. And I was reading this book, and all the way through the book, I was thinking this guy is. There's 3 authors on that one, Every Spy a Prince, and I was thinking that these people are actually confessing to a lot of the crimes that they were doing. But in fact, they were just telling about the crimes, and they were not confessing. And by the end of the book, they're sitting there saying that they're very proud of all of that stuff. And they said the biggest success that they had, and this book, just basically on some of these admissions, it should shock you. And it's like, well, why isn't this stuff? And they're proud of it. And they said one of the biggest accomplishments that they ever had was to get Muslims and Christians to be killing each other, and they're very, very proud of that. It's absolutely incredible, incredible, you know. Then you go to places like you see in Russia, where they have places where I believe practically across the street from each other there's a mosque and an Orthodox church, and they even hold picnics together. So the Muslims and the Christians get along very well, and they're like best of friends. And it's like I was thinking, well, you'd never really see that in the West, you know. They're and then there's a lot of time of debate about that. There was this as in Mohammed Hijab, I believe his name, from the UK, and you know, one of the things that he tries to stress is that how so much in the West is trying to get Western people, and it's kind of like going on like that right now in the UK, trying to get them to hate Muslims. And there was this huge what is it, a rally yesterday. This is part of this, and this, I guess it was organized by Tommy Robinson of the UK, and you know, he's one of these leaders that are mostly anti-immigration, and obviously you've probably heard in the United States that Elon Musk is of course very much against this too, and to a certain extent I'm against it as well, but because, and it's not really the fact that it's the Muslims that you should be blaming. You know, it's obvious. It is the government. The government is doing, and I think it was Charlie Kirk even was mentioning that it seems like he believed, I think he was talking about it, in that they're trying to do this, the great replacement theory. And I guess this was about replacing the indigenous white people of certain countries, such as you know, the United States and Canada and Europe, and replacing them with brown or darker skinned people. And I think mostly what a lot of these people are saying are Muslims or whatever. And like I'm saying, it's not these people that you have to blame, you know. And it's also kind of strange that you have, in particular, the UK and the United States. They're bombing these countries. They're bombing these same countries, and then the people from these countries migrate to the countries that were bombing their country. And you know, but of course one of the was not really that involved was Sweden, you know, in the bombing and all that. And then of course Sweden is the first place where they had a huge Muslim population living in one area, and basically I think they're trying to declare their own country inside of that. And there's some of these demographic things that are really, really shocking. You know, in the UK and in France, and even Canada. Canada is another one. I don't know how much of the population of Canada is now foreign, and I guess they said, I think within like 10 years they have imported 1/3 of their population. So they're all 1/3 of that is like mostly Muslims and maybe Africans, I don't know. And it's the government's policy of those countries. So a lot of these people, like in the UK, you know, they go after the Muslims and blame them. And of course there are some radical Muslims, but that actually serves, apparently, on the people that are actually perpetrating this stuff. It's like George Soros, you know, and Donald Trump is now talking about, we have to look into this guy. You know, you think so? Do you really think so? And it's been a known fact, you know, I don't know, for 20 years, his Open Society Foundation, and he's paying the way. He's flaming that, you know, the flame, or he's fanning the flames to get these people to all go. And it's like, what the heck? And it's like, a lot of people are saying that the whole idea of this is to get people so they have no identity, that the Europeans have no identity in the UK or anywhere, and that the super elite can control these people much, much better when they can't identify. They can't identify with being from that country or anything like that. And the people that are that that's getting sent to these countries, they don't even identify with the country. They don't have any special love of the culture or anything like that. It's a really strange thing that goes on. And you know, you're trying to wonder, well, what is the whole purpose of all of this? And then you look at Ukraine. That's another one. And then they get the Ukrainians to hate everything that is Russian, to hate all Russians, to hate all Russian culture, anything, and anyone that has sympathy for the Russians or the Russian culture or anything, and to completely eliminate it. And Zelensky has even made comments that a large portion of Russia belongs to Ukraine. And maybe part of this goal, at least of these Banderites from Ukraine, was after they destroyed everything that was Russian inside of their country, and they keep building up their military, it was to attack and to take over these parts of Russia, not just Kursk or Bryansk or a lot of these other areas that they've been attacking, or Rostov, you know, maybe even the Krasnodar area, of course, maybe all the way down to Sochi, all the way down to the border of Abkhazia. What is the name of that city? Anyway, the entire area there, and I think it was even up to Novgorod. And you know, you can really twist around history. I didn't know that much as you know, about this Russian history, but I know about the Kievan Empire, and then after that there was a few other. That was the first capital of Russia. People that were under the jurisdiction of the capital at that time, which was Kiev, were called Russians. So that was the first capital of the Russian Empire, was Kiev. And then it went to, I think, to Vladimir was one of the places, and Novgorod was another place. And then, of course, it was settled on Moscow. And they just had Moscow Day yesterday, I would guess, by the way. And was it yesterday or the day before? And Vladimir Putin was congratulating them and saying how it's one of the great cities in the world, which it is, you know. And but anyway, it looks like some of these Banderites, you know, they want to change. Well, they've already tried to change a lot of the history, you know, and I've mentioned that already before. And they want to be again, maybe, and it, not the capital. They want to maybe change the entire name of the place to Ukraine. And the word Ukraine is a Russian word, and the Russians gave it as meaning on the edge. That's what that means, on the edge of the Russian Empire. That's what Ukraine is. It makes me wonder why they never got around to just changing the name to something else, like Banderland or something like that. I have no idea. And or Nazi territory, whatever. Stefan Bandera, he adored Adolf Hitler, and he killed a lot of Jews, I guess, at first in Lvov, and he wanted to roll 60,000 heads of the Jews at the feet of Adolf Hitler. You know, that's on record that he said that. But anyway, when you look about, you know, and try to think of what did somebody say or what somebody didn't say, and there's so many quotes, I guess, from Bandera, and in Ukraine, I guess they probably got rid of a lot of, I'm like Zelensky rubbing my nose all the time. Anyway, but as far as talking also about Charlie Kirk, you know, and it was really disgusting when you see how far the world has gone, particularly in the United States, and of course they blame the Russians, that so many people took to TikTok and all this stuff, and they proclaimed how much they hate Charlie Kirk and how they're celebrating that he died and he got killed in a brutal way and all this sort of stuff. And then you saw this, was it a tweet or whatever from Stephen King, you know, the author, that wrote a lot of horror stories. You know, I liked a lot of his stories, a great writer, no doubt. And he said something like, Charlie Kirk said that all gays should be stoned to death. And then some people put up some quotes from Charlie Kirk saying that gays should be respected and all that. And in the meantime, somebody said they're going to boycott, a major bookstore said they're going to boycott all Stephen King books, and they're taken off the shelves and they're not going to be selling them anymore. And Stephen King, maybe he saw that, And anyway, he came out and he apologized, saying that he was wrong. He admitted it. He came out and apologized and said he was wrong. And you have a lot of these politicians. He's not a politician, but anyway, a lot of people, and they will never admit that they're wrong. Like Zelensky, is one of them. And it takes courage, of course, to say that you're wrong, and to say you made a mistake. And the problem is, in politics, if you're a politician and you ever admit to saying that you've made a mistake, your political career is for the most part over, because then nobody's going to ever trust you again. So you got to act as if you are flawless and you are incapable of ever making a mistake. Things like that. I think like Bill Clinton, I don't know. I never had sex with that woman, Monica Lewinsky. I don't know. Trump, same way. All of them, for the most part. I don't know. Has there ever been a politician that's ever admitted that they made a mistake? I don't know. Did Richard Nixon do that? Nah. It might have been the only one. I'm not sure. But another act of courage was, of course, the father of this killer. What's his name? Tyrone Robinson or something. Oh, I've got it. Excuse me. It's not that white powdery stuff. No, anyway, this Tyrone Robinson, I guess, he turned his son in, and that takes, a lot of fighting within yourself. You got to think about it. That's your son, and to do the right thing. But anyway, when you really actually think about it, it's something like you have to do that, because if you don't, it would be much harder to live with yourself in the future, knowing that your son is the one that did it. And this Tyrell Robinson also, if you look at a lot of the background about this, apparently he was not living at home. He was not living with his parents. He was living with a what is it called, a trans guy transitioning to a female. I guess maybe it was his lover or something like that. And so it's like a lot of time what you see is, his family are apparently all Republican, and he went to the extreme side. Obviously he must have been, even though they say he's not politically aligned necessarily, and but he obviously would have been more identifying himself with the Democrats, because he stood for a lot of Democrat stuff like that, obviously. And but anyway, they said somebody was saying that he has no digital footprint, but apparently he did. He was involved in like these chat groups. I don't even know why they would be putting out disinformation like that, saying he has no digital footprint, but it became obvious that he certainly did. He was in a chat group, I guess, with the radical kind of people, I guess. And I don't know why they do this stuff. They put out information and they tell us lies, and they cover up this and they cover up that, and I guess maybe they have some sort of a plan in the future to make us think something else that maybe tied to something or whatever. And I don't know, maybe this group had some information of somebody contacting him, it's probably true, that led him to doing this assassination. I mean, it seems pretty obvious that that's what that's all about, and they're trying to kind of cover up maybe something very much. And the one time when you see that something is covered up, who does it really normally have something to do with? Israel? Doesn't matter which party, Democrat or Republican. And and you see a lot of these people. I don't know about Charlie Bannon. Charlie Bannon was talking about, that a lot of this I don't. He didn't use the word cancer, but it's a cancer. This cancer in the United States, of all of this terrible stuff that is going on. It's been going on for a long, long time, and I have to hearken back to my days And I remember a lot of this stuff, back even in the 1980s, once in a while somebody in your high school gets raped by somebody, and well, there's some things I don't even. It's not that I did anything, but I don't. Somebody that I was associated with, and then they admitted to me that they got raped, and I just think, what the heck, and they were quite young. I guess when I was told that, we were 18 years old, and she was referring obviously to sometime before that when she was babysitting. But anyway, let's not even talk about that so much. But anyway, I remember so much of this stuff occasionally happening in America back in my day, and even myself, I got in once a fight with some hoodlum, a guy that used to sell drugs in our school, and he had a gang, and I didn't know it, but he was the leader of the gang. I got in a fight with him. I was in the 7th grade, and this guy, I don't know, I think it was in the 9th grade, and I got him in a headlock, and I just held him in that headlock in the hallway. Students are watching and all that kind of crap, and in fact he actually lost. I don't know if it was the next day or the same day or days after. Anyway, they chased me down, and I curled up in a ball, and they were kicking me, all over. And there was luckily, I had run through the woods, and I was right by a elementary school, and it happened to have been a former teacher of mine. I think, I don't know from what grade, I don't even remember. It's a long time ago, 4th grade or something like that. But anyway, she was looking on. She was getting in her car. It was by the parking lot of an elementary, and she was seeing that. So these guys maybe decided to stop and walk away. Maybe they got their frustrations out, luckily, at that time. But luckily, that was the end of that. And it started by somebody else taunting a friend of mine, I believe. And it doesn't matter, but anyhow, and then later on, these guys, one of them had raped and murdered a small boy. I don't know if he got life or a death penalty or whatever happened to him. And, they're just a bunch of hoodlum guys and stuff, doing some nasty stuff. And I got some exciting stories in my life, too. So but I don't know, where was I at? I got myself on a tangent. I got too involved in this story now, and I've forgotten what I was talking about. Let's see. I was talking about Stephen King at first and all that, but it's about Steve Bannon, talking about the United States and going down this way. That's what I was saying. Anyway, there was this stuff was going on in the United States, even a long time ago. That must have been was that in the 70s even, or the 80s? That was in the 70s, believe it or not. So this stuff was even going on back in those days. And then I went into the army, and I went to Germany and all that, and seeing how things are in Germany, and the law and order and all that jazz, and then living in Germany at some point in time afterwards, and then it's like I didn't really notice that so much, that the stuff like that didn't happen so much in Germany. And then I worked in a place for the commanding general, and a year or two before me, not during my time, but I guess they attacked. It was the Red Army faction and the Baader-Meinhof gang in Germany, which were some terrorists, and they said they were funded by the USSR, which probably wasn't true, now that I'm a little bit more savvy on how things work, but I don't know, the Irish Republican Army and the Red Army faction and the Baader-Meinhof gang and all that. But apparently they got a hold of it was a Soviet grenade launcher or something, and they shot it into the back of the car of my boss before I was working there, of course. It was a different general at that time, the commanding general of Germany, of American forces and also German forces of Germany. but they didn't injure him very badly at all. But it was just the attack. It was all that. And then, of course, I started working there, of course, a year or two later, and then you get to go to anti-terrorist schools and all sorts of stuff, and and qualify in lots of different weapons and all that sort of thing. But so there was some of that stuff still going on in Germany. And then you come to some place like this over here, like Belarus, and it's like unheard of. And Lukashenko had mentioned, how the West studies Belarus, and they don't understand how it is, how things are. They actually watch and they study, and they, maybe that is why Trump is cozying up to Lukashenko so much in these past days, is that maybe they want to figure out why is it that there is virtually no crime here. They do have crime, certainly, but they're far, far, far milder compared to anything that happens over there in the United States. It's absolutely incredible. And then you look also south of the border, you look at Ukraine, and that is massive amounts of crime and corruption and stuff like that as well. There's even much more in Russia than there is in Belarus. So Belarus, so you have a strongman, authoritarian type of leader. I guess that's one of the keys to trying to get rid of crime. Somebody who is tough on crime. And then you had the Democrats who let him out and let people. I mean, and Donald Trump, it's I don't know, it's in a different way, not how the term is normally used, but it's a tough act to follow. So he's got to do exactly the opposite and try to reverse, the huge crap that the Democrats have caused in the United States. Wow. Especially Joe Biden letting criminals on the streets and probably helping the criminals, and then being obviously very much in bed with Ukraine. And wow. Anyway, it's getting quite a long. I'm actually not even going by my notes. I'm talking off the top of my head here. There's so much stuff to be talking about. Also, let's talk a little bit more about Charlie Kirk, because that is still the big thing. It's it is something to look at, because this is very symbolic of the American way of life and how things are going in America. And then this Charlie Kirk, I have a lot of respect for this guy. He was trying to change things for the better. And one thing I was trying to make a point with about Stephen King is how people are completely brainwashed into believing something that's completely fake. And Stephen King at least had the courage to come out and admit that somehow he was fooled as well. And I'll tell you what, it keeps coming to mind, and I'm sorry to be saying this in 3 videos in a row, because it's so well done. This video by Green Day, American Idiot, and so much truth is in there. And it's how the alien nation controlled by the media, and just so much. And the media, that of course includes like TikTok. And I'm not saying TikTok is a bad thing, but it's like, how do we get all of this fake stuff on here, even about this Charlie Kirk, trying to say that he's this bad guy and evil fascist and hates everybody and everything, when it's in fact, as you all see, and even Steve Bannon was probably alluding to this, and so many others, that obviously the hatred is all on the left. These people, they seethe in their hatred. It's just like Ukraine. You look at Ukraine and even Israel. These people, it's like they're vampires in love, and they feed on hate. Everything is based on hate, hate, hate. It's not just the Hate Russia Club. It's the hate the Gazans, the hate. It's like hate other groups. It's hate, hate, hate. And the Democrats are saying, oh, how the other guy is full of hate, when you don't really see that, when they're trying to exercise tolerance, and yet the Democrats are the ones that are filled with hate, and they're totally intolerant. They're only tolerant to anything that is weird, but you also have to join the hate club and to hate all of everything else maybe that isn't weird, that isn't trans, that isn't gay. I mean, anything that wants to set America, what does it say? To start a foundation for America to rebuild itself, they're against it. Wow. I think that's so many people are trying to say this. So how is it that these people that believe, at least, that America should have a certain type of foundation, that are not killing anybody, they are just trying to say, let's set this all back and let's be conservative for the most part. And then you have these people, most of them, on the left, obviously, they say the left. I don't like to say left or right, but they're leftists, supposedly Democrats, and they say the answer is to kill these people. These are so bad people that we need to kill them. Does that make any sense to you? They are bad, so we have to be the killers. Yeah. Yes, and obviously, let me just spell this out about Charlie Kirk and Israel and what's going on about that. When Charlie Kirk started recognizing all this stuff about Israel, in spite of the fact that they gave him a lot of money, to be on their side and all that, Charlie Kirk, I guess, his sentiments of doing the right thing were more powerful, than wanting money. And so these people, before Charlie Kirk became so prominent that he was against a lot of this stuff that Israel was doing with killing all these children and lying and killing their own people, that they had to knock him off, and use that to say, oh, he did so much for us and he stood for Israel. When I was listening to Charlie Kirk, and hearing a lot of this stuff, I said, how can he possibly be pro-Israel when he's talking about all of these things? Well, he was against Benjamin Netanyahu and against his regime and all of these. There's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of great people in Israel and there's a lot of good things. But, the majority of the people, it's just like in Ukraine, and they're trying to convert these people to this very hateful ideology, and a lot of them are turned in Ukraine and in Israel. The two countries are very, very similar. I have to say that, and I always call them Nazis. They're the Zio-Nazis, which are in Israel, because that's what they're practicing. They practice Nazism. And of course the Ukrainians, a lot of those people, they admit that they're Nazis and they're in love with Nazism. And a lot of them love killing. They love blood. They want to kill all the Russian people. And that's what Zelensky even said. He said what keeps him alive is hatred. His hatred of Russians. So, but this is a guy, that we're supposed to love, and he's so loving and he wants peace and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Anyway. But anyway, like Charlie Kirk talking about this, that he actually believed that they were first, beheading babies, and it's reminiscent of when the United States was putting out these lies about Iraq, and about the Iraqis going in and taking babies out of incubators and throwing them on the floor. All of this stuff is a bunch of lies, and then they made this reenactment thing, and everybody knows that was fake too. This Jessica Lynch, remember that? And they rescued her. She was wounded, and they had her captive in a Iraqi hospital. And they filmed it, and these doctors or whatever, and it was just like an American soldier. And who knows, that hospital might have been in Kuwait, might not have even been in Iraq. It's just a whole bunch of fake stuff. And I remember the name of that football player that the United States killed, American football player. It was in Afghanistan, and they killed him. His name was Pat Tillman, because he was also starting to question America's role. Why are they in Afghanistan, and why are they doing this? And he was questioning that, so they had to kill him, and then probably just exactly like what is going on with Charlie Kirk with Israel. Oh, he loved Israel so much, and blah blah blah, and acting like, that was the right thing to do. This so loving man, and to support Israel. And it was the same thing that Pat Tillman, was wising up, and that was a known fact as well. He was writing to his brother, and he was no longer. I'll tell you, with his mindset as it was when they killed him, he would never have joined the American forces at that time and gone to go over there and start killing Iraqis. Anyway, really and then you're questioning like this stuff about. Yeah, Charlie Kirk was also saying, one thing he also said was that Epstein was a Mossad agent, And now Donald Trump, everybody's, and everybody was knowing that even went back years. The judges that were listening to Epstein, when they were charging him one of the other times when he was arrested for pedophilia, they said, "Oh, we have to let him go because he's an intelligence agent." So they let him go. The judges. And then now all of a sudden he's not an intelligence agent. His girlfriend, kind of girlfriend or associate, Ghislaine Maxwell, her father was a Mossad agent. And I guess she was as well. I mean, there's so much Mossad in there. And what was he doing, inviting all these people there and filming them? And even Pam Bondi, before Donald Trump made his 180-degree turn, Pam Bondi was talking about that they have thousands of film footage. And it was not just of child porn. I don't know, what does that mean by child porn anyway? Was it men having sex with very young girls? Who were they? I don't know. And it's a lot. And then, I don't know. There's just way, 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 way too much. And everybody knows that. And they're trying to wipe it out. You didn't see this. Like they're Jedis. You didn't see this. Go the other way. Or like, I think it was Candace Owens. She was using this thing for the Men in Black. You don't see it. It's been wiped out of your memory. You forgot. Oh, now it doesn't exist. It never happened. Terrible crap, that even so everybody realizes this about Donald Trump. And then you gotta say there's good things about Donald Trump, but why is this? What is going on here? And it's Charlie Kirk was questioning the fact that Donald Trump was under the complete control of Israel. That is what has been put out. That is what has been put out. And then I always put out, and nobody else was saying this at the beginning, and I think some people are at least hinting at this, that it was Israel that put Donald Trump in the White House. When you have this powerful entity of the Soros people that are which is the deep state for the most part, and you got this Radio Free Liberty and Voice of America and USAID and all of these agencies that are also part of the deep state, the CIA. I mean, you name it. How are you going to fight against them? And that's why Donald Trump lost to Joe Biden while he was a sitting president. How can you lose to Joe Biden, who barely knows his own name, can't even find the bathroom at night when he gets up in his own house? It's a lot of corruption, and they got the order to stand down. I guess they were cheating in Pennsylvania, and then it was stopped all of a sudden, and then they let Donald Trump win. Well, what other entity has such power and such money, besides the deep state and the Soros' organizations and stuff? I guess it must be Israel, and obviously so. And Donald Trump does everything for Israel, and that's one reason probably Charlie Kirk would have started to be asking, why did you bomb Iran when you know fully well that was a stupid thing to do? And Charlie Kirk even said bombing Iran for Israel. Why did you bomb Iran for Israel? Don't bomb Iran for Israel. That's what basically, he went to the White House specifically to tell Trump not to bomb Iran for Israel. Come on now. Obviously it's a payback for putting him in the White House. What do you think? Jeez. Another thing Charlie Kirk that I liked about Charlie Kirk is, how can I even say this on YouTube? When you talk about the COVID sickness and the vaccines, he was questioning both of that, and that's the stuff that was really hidden. I was really trying to find this. They were talking, and everything was hidden for me on the internet. They did not want to talk about this. This is very taboo stuff. Even to find out what Charlie Kirk said about it. Charlie Kirk was questioning, how come there were so many people that died so fast after getting vaccinated? That was basically the question that he was asking about that. And like I said, I can't talk too much about this because I've been taken down from YouTube many times for even broaching this subject. So I don't know if I'm allowed to say what I just said. That was Charlie Kirk's opinion. It's not mine. You and I, everybody on this channel, we are all firm supporters of the vax and how it saved billions and billions and billions and billions of lives. I don't know. What would we have done without warp speed? Donald Trump. Ah, yes. So you start to wonder, You know, that maybe even Donald Trump had some sort of motives against Charlie Kirk, but I don't know about that. I don't know if I would go that far. Yeah, there's some motives, but I'm not saying that he did anything. So, yes, but anyhow, my channel's already heavily suppressed. In case you guys haven't noticed it already, I even used to have more people watching the videos than I do right now. Quite a bit more. Like within the first hour, I always had at least 10 people watching, and now sometimes I need to go most of the day to get 10 people to watch the videos. And does it am I I'm not crying. It doesn't bother me. No, I'm just joking. You know, and I've had offers, and this, I'll tell you what, listen to this one. Listen to this one. Yesterday, I did some shorts on some motorcycle not gangs, but these motorcyclists coming from Russia, you know, and driving through Minsk and all that. And when I was uploading one of those, I got a message from YouTube, and I don't know if I can say this stuff, but anyway, they was saying, do you want to promote this video? And I said yes, you know, and then they start saying this questions, and then you go to the next one, and then the next one, and then they start asking for money, and it says, you know, that I will get more views. There was a choice of either between more views or more subscribers, and I pressed, I don't remember, I don't know, whatever I pressed anyway. So, and I was thinking, well, this, you know, it's kind of okay, and then they start asking for money. So YouTube was wanting me to pay some extra money for them to promote my shorts, you know. And I don't know, I cleaned my shorts yesterday, so I don't know what they would, I don't know, I haven't washed my shorts these shorts for a long time, so I don't know how they would want my shorts. Some pretty kinky people out there. But anyway, no, and I've already been contacted by, I don't know if that's one person was contacting me directly on Telegram, and he was saying some money, and I don't know, like 20,000 views or something, and there's some. He didn't really say the price of all of this. You know, I wasn't really that interested. I don't want to pay any money anyway. You know, you want to get more views and subscribers and all that kind of stuff. You know, I'm not really such a big person trying to get money in this way. Like I said, a lot of the time what I'm doing is this is for my therapy, to, you know, get pissed off at what's going on in the world and how everything is changing. It's very much maybe like Charlie Kirk or a lot of people, you know, they don't like seeing how things are running, and you kind of, there's a lot of people like us, you know, but it's not my number one goal is to capitalize from it to get money. But anyhow, I had a couple people, one I think even on YouTube, but people have offered me, you know, to get me more views and things like that. And I've known people, believe it or not, I've known people, and they did pay the money, and they did get a lot more views, huge amounts of views. They went from, I think, like 100 views to 25,000 views, and sometimes even more. I don't even, and it's not even always promotion. I think it's like a lot of them are fake views. So I guess there's people out there that do this kind of stuff. And you know, even with me mentioning this stuff, you know, somebody wrote to me, and I guess maybe it's somehow to influence me to maybe do something like this, to pay some money like that. And they said, oh, you're just crying because of this. But I think it was the same guy that was already attacking me for other things. So it's pretty amazing. You know, and you know, sure, the stuff bothers you and all of that, but I mean that when you get some of these people that are really critical and they start you know, saying negative things, but it's not that bad. And I some once in a while I get these things and I delete it, and then some people were telling me that I shouldn't have deleted it because some of the people that are the regular subscribers or watchers of the videos, you know, they can get a good laugh or something like that. You know, it's like I said, one guy said I'm a middle-aged communist, alcoholic, something or other. Anyway, so let's keep going here. So that was even during me uploading a video. They wanted me to pay some money to get more views and things like that. And then I did make some shorts, and I remember within a few days I had 4,700 views, and then all of a sudden, bam, it stopped. I haven't had one view since that time. I was getting hundreds every single day, you know, and it was going like for a week or something. So, and then after that, they just completely stopped it. I think it was only like 4 days, you know. And at one time I was with some people, and I uploaded a short, and I put it on the on YouTube, and we were around a table, and it was like ordering dinner, and before dinner came, they were looking at these at the video, and they saw, you know, how many views, and these even got some good views, good amount of views, but they see like maybe towards the beginning I had maybe 67 views, and then the next time they looked it was 54, and they you know, and there's some people there they were all shocked because they saw that it had more views, and then the next time they looked it had less views. So people unseeing it, and I've had already comments. At least 5 people have told me that that my people are unseeing my videos. Obviously you can't do that, so YouTube takes the views away. I'm just kind of wondering how many views would I actually really have if they weren't doing that. So anyway, and obviously they do not promote the videos. They're not going to send them to people cold calling. So it's like, I've seen that with other people, to believe it or not. I've seen a video and I liked the video, and I remember the subject, and I remember even part of the title, and then I go to look for this video on YouTube, and it's like almost impossible to find. You know, even when you know the title of the video, you put it in, and they're suggesting a whole bunch of other videos, and it's not really even the title that you put in. So you have to get something else and you put it in there, and then you can see, then they send you that video. And I'm just sort of wondering, what the heck is all of this, you know? They're doing everything possible, and even going beyond that, so that you can't watch that video. I don't know, I mean, and you cannot tell me that YouTube is not suppressing videos. That's very obvious that they do this. So anyway, I'm probably going to get kicked off here very soon. I'm surprised they even have me on there at all. But let's keep going here. I already talked about that big rally. Some young ladies here. Let's see. Yeah, 3 million people. I guess called Unite the Kingdom. I guess that's what this Tommy Robinson thing. But don't fall into this trap like I'm saying that a lot of other people, you know, you fall into and go into the hate thing and blame the wrong people for whatever problems happen. Because if you do, another part of this migration thing, of course, this was about migration yesterday, and then you look at Ursula von der Leyen, or you look at what is the EU doing, and what is George Soros doing? You know, they're trying to get, you know, I mean, whether you call it the Great Replacement Theory or whatever, I don't really know if that's the thing, but I think it's the bigger explanation is like what I said before, is they're trying to make everybody so they don't identify with each other anymore, and there's just too many groups, and people cannot unite against the globalist politicians and the super rich to get more money and to get more control of people. And they've already said that their aim is to get control, a lot of them, and then it's rich. And I tell you what, life, when they can do this, life is going to be very miserable for all of us. And there's a lot of things that are going to be coming down the pipe. A lot of the technology already is there, and of course the World Economic Forum has been talking about this stuff already. This Harari guy, and oh my. But anyhow, Ursula von der Leyen, she came out, you know, which is very strange because these countries are obviously trying to import a lot of people. The UK, I mean, they said that there used to be typical British neighborhoods, and now there's no British living there at all. They're all migrants in the whole place, you know. And I don't know, you can just draw so many parallels. Germany, even Canada, all of this stuff, and they're just trying to get a lot of these people in. And then maybe they're bombing these countries on purpose to make life miserable there, so they all come to England, to Germany, to Austria, to Canada, all of these places. And then you have these people fighting back, some to a large extent even Poland. And but anyway, a lot of these migrants, a lot of them were going to Belarus, flying to Belarus. Probably a lot of the flights were paid for by George Soros and his Open Society Foundation. And anyway, and then they would go to the border and they'd cross over into Poland. And, Lukashenko, or the government here, was blocking a lot of these people from coming even to Belarus and all that. But then they started these sanctions, and then so I think Lukashenko was not blocking as many of these people, and so more of them were coming, and they're trying to, and their goal was to go to Germany. And Poland, as you know, to a large extent, is against this migration stuff. The Polish government, by the way, I have to make a big distinction between the people and the government. So these people were going that way, and then some of them would come into Russia. Some of them were Russians from very different groups in Russia, maybe Tajikistan, or that's not Russia, but anyway, through Russia, through former Russian republics, I guess is more what I want to say, and then going over there. And Germany, I even remember when I was over there, they were trying to get a whole bunch of migrants to come in there, and I guess a lot of this is because of the birth rates, I guess, are not very strong, and they believe that they need to get so and so many babies to at least the replacement, I guess, which was like maybe 2.2 children per couple or whatever, to replace, in the workforce for economics reasons and all that. They never even talk about the fact that a lot of people go on welfare and it's actually cost people. So the workers have to pay a huge amount of money into the system to pay for all the people on welfare. I remember even in Germany seeing a whole bunch of people always sitting in the parks, watching their dogs fight while they're drinking beers and whiskeys and everything, drunk and, all that sort of a thing. And, they're living off of money that other people are paying into the system. But anyway, that's beside the point. Ursula von der Leyen was saying that Putin was weaponizing migration. I guess trying to say that maybe Putin is sending all of these migrants over there. Here, and Ursula von der Leyen herself is criticizing Orban for not taking in more migrants, and then yet she turns around on the other side of her mouth and she's talking how Putin is weaponizing migration when they're actually trying to get migration. So is it one or the other? So, Ursula von der Leyen has to find out what she's talking about. First, Putin's not doing anything that has anything to do with any migration into Europe. Every time that anything goes wrong, or any time they can construe anything to actually look like it might be wrong, is to find Putin to be at fault for it. If your car keys get lost or something like that, maybe somebody didn't put the toilet seat down. I don't know. But somehow Putin has something to do with that. Lost a sock out of the dryer. That's normally one. I think Putin takes socks out of dryers. Normally, he sneaks out at night, but sometimes in the daytime. While you're washing clothes in the day, he'll sneak in there. He fits underneath the crack in the front door, and then he materializes, and then he steals a sock out of the dryer. He can go through the cracks there while it's still running, by the way, and steal a sock and pull it through there. Yeah, Putin is normally the one doing that kind of stuff. Wow. There's another thing. Now, this is really, 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 really something. Donald Trump say, we got to be friends with Russia, all that blah, 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 blah. Then he says he wants to destroy BRICS. He's made no secret of that. And, but Trump, and it's like, I was thinking this can't be true, but then you see that there's a truth, or whatever they call it, from Donald Trump. Say he wants the entire world, and he made clear that he's writing to the entire world to boycott Russian oil, and it is to stop Putin's war machine, I guess. I don't know if he used that word. That's, of course, a Ursula von der Leyen thing. But anyway, and yet he's not on either side of Ukraine or Russia. He sends weapons to Ukraine. He gives intelligence to Ukraine, and he's actually still sending money and weapons and bombs, huge amounts of bombs and things like that. Don't. It's Europe that's paying for them. Well, you're still sending them, as far as I can tell, aren't you, boy? Anyway. And then so he's telling everybody, and he's going out of his way, and he's sanctioning all these countries that buy oil from Russia. No. Mostly the BRICS countries. Wait a minute. It just happen to be the BRICS countries, the ones that he said he wants to destroy. Well, you know, it's kind of a strange thing. Instead of building your own economy, doing things that maybe would bring you wealth through your own labor and your own brain power and all that, instead you attack the competitor to bring them down because that they think that that brings you up. It doesn't move you anywhere. You're just the same place, but you bring the other guys down, to be below your level to make you look better, I guess. Gosh. Because they're advancing and they're getting too intelligent and too smart. They're inventing too much. They're getting too powerful. So we have to make ourselves look that way by destroying them if we possibly can, any way we possibly can. Yeah, that sounds pretty good, isn't it? Yeah. And Donald Trump has also come right out and he said that he wants the United States to dominate in absolutely everything. As you know, one ring to in the darkness bind to them. That's what he wants us, of course. Yeah. So he's, I don't know, has he joined the Hate Russia Club? But anyway, he was going against Russia anyway before. It's weird. It's the only difference between Joe Biden and Trump is that they're like reestablishing some sort of relations to talk to Russia, but at the same time, trying to stab Russia in the back. I'm your friend. Take this knife. Anyway. Yes. Along with all of this, Poland has completely closed the border with Belarus. Oh, wait a minute, I'm in Belarus. I don't know. So I had this really strong desire to go to Poland. I remember going through Poland when I was coming from Germany, going through Poland, and I was saying, what a desolate landscape. Back then, I don't know, maybe it was winter, I can't remember, but it was really bad. Even parts of Belarus, were kind of like, gosh, a bunch of fields, it's just nothing but fields. But Poland was even worse, and it was real bad in those days. I don't know what it's like now, but it was like, I'm glad I'm not going to this country. So, but some say, is this just for the duration of this Zapad, which is West 2025 exercises? And of course, the United States and NATO had a huge exercise going many months on the border of Belarus and Russia, all the way down into southern Europe and all the way up into the Arctic, I believe. And then I don't think that Russia and Belarus pulled the panic button so much. I think Lukashenko made some comment, well, we'll be watching you guys. And but now it's like, oh, and with this fake drone thing, with duct tape, it literally a Russian drone, and it had duct tape on it, landed on a like a plastic roof that didn't damage the roof at all, and none of the branches were broken where the tree that it went through, but yet Russia launched this drone, and I don't know how many drones, and now I think Zelensky's saying, oh yes, this is what Russia does, and something about Romania now. And it's pretty obvious these are Ukrainian drones, and or else they were drones that they got from downing Russian drones or whatever. Well, I think somebody said that there was one they made out of foam. It was like a you could lift it up almost with one hand, and they took the nose piece off of a Russian drone. They fabricated this thing out of a foam, plastic or styrofoam kind of stuff, and they put this nose piece from a Russian drone with duct tape, which was pretty. I mean, why didn't they use glue? Why'd they put duct tape on there? Pretty stupid, and then set it on top of a roof of a chicken coop and said, see, this is proof that Russia was launching drones. And I don't know, I guess Donald Trump was even falling for a lot of this stuff. At least he said he did. I don't know, by his actions and all that, and I think Marco Rubio as well, But it's like, well, nobody got killed, nothing got bombed, blah, 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 all this. They didn't even take a look at this stuff. It's only Zelensky's word. Oh, but Russia's so bad. And anyway, but part of the result of all of this stuff is Poland is, I think now they're stationing, I don't know if it was just a temporary move, but 30,000 more troops on the border. Poland has a lot of troops now. I think it's over 100,000. And they're trying to build their military. Their goal was to be the biggest and most powerful military in all of Europe. I don't know. Now Germany, I think this Merz is coming out, and he's saying that he wants to, Germany used to be, and he's trying to maybe get it back. I don't know. Really weird stuff. Yes. But Donald Trump, obviously, He says that he's neutral. He's not neutral. He sends money, he sends intelligence, sends everything to Ukraine. He's not sending any of that stuff to Russia. You know, obviously Donald Trump is no different than Joe Biden, as I said, and they're trying, Donald Trump included, he wants, but he's the only thing that holds Donald Trump back is he doesn't know if he can possibly cause the strategic defeat of Russia, because all of the military analyses and things that are done, you know, like having a military of the United States pitted against the military of the Russians, the United States loses every single time in every single scenario. So maybe that kind of holds him back a little bit of acting, you know. So he's trying to act, obviously. He wants to destroy Russia's economy, to weaken Russia, and then to enact his strategic defeat of Russia, just like, of course, the European Union is also wanting. And yeah, you know, destroy the economy, and then, of course, obviously, then Russia will surrender to the Ukrainian Nazis. So it'll be a victory for Nazism. I don't think Donald Trump is a Nazism. Like, I don't have that big of negative thoughts about Donald Trump, but I certainly do have negative thoughts. There are a lot of them. And Donald Trump has maybe his other little agendas going on as well. So I'm not fully convinced, and obviously neither was Charlie Kirk, of Donald Trump's motives and things like that. I'm starting to really like this Charlie Kirk, and this guy's he's 31 years old, and he was a real smart guy even some years before that. Obviously he fell for some things. I fell for some things too, you know. I didn't believe in right away, like this beheading babies, and they had these what looked like burned babies, but it turns out it was a puppy or something, and Israel's trying to pass this stuff off. I mean, this is some really cruel stuff. Making up fake stuff and all that just to get your political and your economics agendas. Gosh, you know. And I remember growing up, I was thinking, oh, the United States doesn't cheat on anything. We are so good, and we care about so much. We know the difference between right and wrong, and that is the most important thing, and all that. And now, you know, finding out that we are some of the biggest cheaters and liars and scammers, you know, right along with helping even bigger liars, cheaters, and scammers like Israel and Ukraine. It's pretty disgusting, if you ask me. Anyway. So, but you see, this Nazi ideology is really taken all over everywhere. Maybe they just don't call themselves Nazis, but they're friggin' Nazis, you know. If you want to exterminate, like say the Jews or the Russians or whatever, or the Muslims even, you know, you're starting to say, well, damn, am I a Nazi? I must be a Nazi, wanting to exterminate or this tremendous harm on other groups. Wow. Anyway. Okay, I'm getting to the end of this thing. One thing I wanted to say also is when I did that last video about this Charlie Kirk stuff and, you know, showing this Israel connection, asking the question, Kim Iverson, she did a video much shorter than mine and much more concise, saying a lot of the same things. I had a little bit more things in mind, of course. I'm a great guy. But she was mentioning a lot of this stuff. And I had read and pieced a lot of this stuff together on my own, and apparently, like, maybe, I don't know, Max Blumenthal, he actually said a lot of this stuff too, and he's very good at a lot of this stuff. Yes, anyway, so obviously Israel, they had to, and let me just come right out and say it, my opinion, Israel had to kill Charlie Kirk before it was recognized that he got very disgusted with Benjamin Netanyahu and what the Benjamin Netanyahu government was doing, and let alone what they're doing to the Israelis themselves. You know, that they would even kill Israelis, you know. And it was in the old days, you know, the Jews, as a general, they would not kill other Jews. That was considered a no-no. But Benjamin Netanyahu, he's gone beyond that. He is very willing to kill other Jews to get his political agenda. And I should have been thinking about that. I did think about that when some I don't know how many Jews were killed. It was I think it was in Bulgaria or Istanbul on some thing, and then they blamed Hamas. I mentioned that already in this video. So, but you know, he's done that in a couple other times too. Makes you wonder how many times he's done this. Oh boy. Another thing that's very surprising, right after this happened to Charlie Kirk, you have Ben Shapiro coming out. Ben Shapiro, the big con artist, you know, big supporter. Israel can never do anything wrong. Everything that Israel does is fantastic to Ben Shapiro. Never, ever, ever, ever. Don't even let that thought ever enter your mind. Israel loves everybody and everything, and they do everything for the good of all of mankind and God's chosen people, this kind of stuff. So, but he's basically saying, oh, I will always stand up for Charlie Kirk. You know, so this was part of the deal as well, probably. You know, I'm not saying Ben Shapiro was involved in that. Obviously, elements in the Israeli government were involved, to me anyway. You can think what you want to. And, you know, a lot of people are saying Ukraine because the Ukrainians were really celebrating that Charlie Kirk was killed. You know, but they celebrate when anybody gets killed, I think, for the most part. Anybody that does not 100% support Ukraine, that's very much like the Israelis. But the Israelis had not caught on yet that Charlie Kirk had figured out Benjamin Netanyahu for the most part. A lot of Israelis, of course, even if they did, they would still support Charlie Kirk anyway. But subliminally, it's not even subliminal. It's pretty obvious. Ben Shapiro is doing in his own way, trying to tell all of the Charlie Kirk supporters that now they should watch Ben Shapiro. That now he is the successor to Charlie Kirk. Ben Shapiro. Makes you wonder if that's going to actually work. A lot of people are starting to get very cool to Ben Shapiro. A lot of times since Candace Owens already outed him as being, you know, what he is. Ben Shapiro is nothing but a friggin' con artist. He's a very hateful con artist. You know, sure, he's very good, you know. But one thing that Charlie Kirk does not seem to have been is a con artist. Seems to be a very genuine person. Much, much different than Ben Shapiro. So it's disgusting that this Ben Shapiro guy would be trying to take the audience of Charlie Kirk. You guys should be disgusted about that. Support me as your new information idol. Yeah. Wow. So, anyway, that's about all I have to say for this video. It's another long video. I hope I'm not going to start going over an hour and a half now, you know. But in any case, I hope there was something that you guys could use in this video that you liked, and you know, make sure you push the like button at least, you know. And if you I could say, oh, subscribe if you're not subscribed, but YouTube is never going to send this out to any people that are not already subscribed, and most of my subscribers won't get this video anyway. So that's how that actually works out. Yeah, that's the life of being suppressed. I don't care. Doesn't bother me at all. Okay. Anyway, thanks for joining me, everybody, and I'll see you on the next one. So, bye-bye.